The top two TAs fight over the dorm bed and realize neither is willing to be the bottom. "This is not how I imagined losing my dignity," Theo muttered, glaring at the single twin mattress as if it had personally insulted his ancestors. "Same," Julian said coolly, folding his arms. "I came here to teach undergrads, not audition for a gay reality show called Who Sleeps Where." It started with a clerical error, or divine sabotage depending on who you asked. Both Julian and Theo had been awarded the prestigious graduate teaching assistantship in comparative literature at Oak Ridge University, a small liberal arts college known for its ridiculously underfunded housing office and disturbingly hot staff. Unfortunately, said office had decided that Julian Carrington and Theo Vong were one person, and so, two hyper-competitive Tiason Beta, one Omega ended up assigned to the same dorm room, with one bed. The moment they walked in, dragging overstuffed bags and brimming with sarcasm, the universe laughed. "I'll take the bed," Julian had announced with the confident smirk of a man who knew his cheekbones could win debates. Theo raised a brow. "You planning to wrestle me for it? Or just assume I'll roll over because I'm an Omega?" "A beat." Julian blinked. "Wait, you're the Omega?" Theo gestured at himself. "Sorry to disappoint. Not all of us wear lace and speak in whispers." Julian's mouth opened, shut, then twisted into something halfway between offense and amusement. "Wow, I wasn't going to say that, but now I'm kind of rooting for you to sleep on the floor." Neither did. That first night they both tried the bed, back to back, arms stiff, legs perfectly straight. It lasted 7 agonizing minutes before Julian flung off the blanket and stormed to the common room couch. Theo stayed if only to prove a point. The next night they switched. Julian came back around 3 a.m., shivering and half defeated. Theo gave him the blanket, silently. By the 4th night, the war had escalated into a petty, glorious Cold War of academic sabotage and culinary passive aggression. Julian left Nietzsche quotes on Theo's flashcards. Theo labeled the fridge Theos. Omegas need calcium. Betas need to chill. They fought over whose section the undergrads liked better, whose syllabus had more intellectual rigor, who brewed better coffee. And under it all, something sharp and hot and inconvenient simmered. It wasn't just about the bed anymore. Julian wasn't used to someone like Theo, sharp-tongued, brilliant, Vietnamese-American with a quiet pride and eyes that didn't flinch when challenged. An Omega who didn't behave like the literature Julian had grown up reading. No tragic longing, no submissive swoon, just fire. And Theo had spent years shielding himself with sarcasm and intellectual armor. He didn't trust betas who smiled too easily or flirted without follow-through. But Julian was different. He challenged him. He listened. He cared too much and tried to hide it under an avalanche of snark. They circled each other like wolves. Or idiots. Sometimes both. It was a Tuesday, a month into the semester, when everything cracked. They were grading papers on opposite ends of the bed, now unofficially shared on alternating nights, when Julian blurted, "Do you ever get tired of pretending you're not exhausted?" Theo looked up. "Excuse me?" Julian set his pen down. "You're always on. Always perfect. Always witty. Always composed. Don't you ever want to I don't know rest?" Theo blinked. No one had ever asked him that. Not professors. Not old boyfriends. Certainly not the beta whose very existence irritated him. "I don't have the luxury," he said finally. "Rest is for people who aren't constantly underestimated." Julian swallowed. "I don't underestimate you." There was a long pause. The air felt heavy. "No," Theo said. "You just think I should be the one to sleep on the floor." Julian laughed once, bitter. "I think you scare the hell out of me." The first kiss was an accident. Or maybe not. It was late after the fall faculty mixer. They were tipsy, tired. Theo had worn a black button-down that made Julian irrationally angry. Julian had worn cologne that should have been illegal. They argued. About Dorita of all things. Theo said, "You're impossible." Julian said, "You like that?" And then they were kissing. Messy. Hard. Beautiful. The bed didn't matter that night. What did matter was the feeling of hands on skin, mouths on throats, whispered confessions in the dark. Julian pulled back once, just to ask, "Are you sure?" Theo answered by kissing him again. They didn't sleep. Not really. But for the first time, neither felt tired. Of course, nothing stays perfect. By mid-November, rumors swirled. Someone saw Julian sneaking out of the dorm with bedhead. Theo laughed too hard at Julian's jokes in lecture. The department chair called them in for a friendly chat. "We've noticed closeness," she said carefully. "And we'd like to remind you both that professionalism is fully intact." Theo cut in. "We just share a bed. It's the university's fault." The chair blinked. "You what?" Later, Julian fell into a chair in their room, groaning. "She thinks we're codependent idiots." "Well," Theo said, folding laundry, "one of those words applies." "You're impossible," Julian muttered. "You like that." This time, Julian didn't argue. But December brought something colder than snow. Julian got an offer from NYU, a visiting researcher position, fully funded. It was everything he'd worked for. Theo smiled when Julian told him. Perfect, awful smile. "That's amazing," he said. Julian looked at him. "You hate New York." "I hate losing," Theo whispered. "Then come with me." Theo froze. "You know I can't. My family's here. My mom. And I just got offered the spring seminar. I've worked years for this." "So have I." The silence between them was louder than any fight they'd ever had. That night, Theo slept alone. By choice. Julian didn't come back the next day. Finals week blurred by. Theo taught, graded, smiled. But the bed felt too big. He found Julian's cologne in the drawer, still half full, like a promise that hadn't known how to end. On the last day of term, a package arrived. Inside, a copy of the symposium, margins annotated with Julian's looping script. A note slipped between the pages. "You made me want to be better, not just as a scholar, as a person. I don't know what's next, but I know you're part of the reason I got there." Theo read it 3 times, then booked a flight. New York was cold, brutal, overcrowded. Theo hated it. He stood in front of Julian's apartment building for 10 full minutes before knocking. Julian opened the door, then blinked, then smiled. "You hate New York." "I hate losing," Theo said. "And I'm done pretending I'm not exhausted." Julian pulled him into the warm. This time the bed was big enough. Not because one of them gave in, but because they'd both decided to stop fighting the wrong war and start building something worth sharing under the same roof and finally on equal ground. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.